of the program that Maya puts us through. There's some happiness out there, and we just need to pursue it smart, diligently, or a little bit differently, and somehow there's happiness out there. So this is Krishna's teaching to Uddhava. A conditioned soul undergoes great trouble to obtain a little happiness. After struggling in material life, which is hardship and hypocrisy, one may receive a little sense gratification, but this illusory pleasure in no way offsets the burden of suffering one must bear to obtain it. So why is life difficult? There's one sentence spoken in Uddhava Gita that tells it. And here's another image that's also from Uddhava Gita. If you look carefully down the lower left corner, you'll see a sword. And the other is an artist's painting of what's supposed to be a forest. You know, the forest of material enjoyment that needs to be cut by the sword of knowledge or detachment. Because in the Vedic texts, this companion or couplet of Jnana Vairagya are always together. So with the weapon of knowledge, or the sword of knowledge, one is to cut attachment to illusory happiness. It's difficult because we like the illusory happiness. And if we don't have illusory happiness, where's happiness? Here's the text that goes along with this. The network of material desire is created when one falsely thinks that one can establish himself permanently in the material world. This binding network should be cut by the sword of detachment. Otherwise, one will be forced to wander the illusory network of Maya with no understanding of liberated life on the spiritual platform. There's a price to pay for happiness. Or the struggle is against an illusory happiness that doesn't happen. That's why life is difficult. So if you don't want to change the channel, you'll continue to struggle. And if you want to change the channel, it's a little difficult because you're attached. So to change the channel, there has to be detachment. Really simple. I mean, in principle, it's really simple. But because we're attached, it's not so simple. So this, I was hearing Srila Prabhupada speaking for I have one of those little player devices. You can get them in India. And it's packed up with all the Prabhupada's recorded everything. The Bhagavad Gita class, you can listen to the whole Bhagavad Gita. You know, and some verses he spoke many, many times on. You can guess which ones from Bhagavad Gita. And then the whole Bhagavatam, everything recorded, Prabhupada speaking on the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, 111 Bhagavatam, and all the way through. And then morning walk conversations and room conversations, and it's all there. It's really fantastic little machine. Don't drop it, because I dropped one once. It's like made in India, so it just stopped working. So be really careful. You have to get another one if you drop it. So he was speaking on this topic of detachment, and he was saying it, you know, how he would sometimes take a point and say it in a number of times, and a number of times, and a number of times, so you get it. And his point, this point that was being repeated was, there's no question of detachment without knowledge. Even if we know something, we're not necessarily detached. But there's no question of detachment without knowledge. jnana vairagya. And so within Bhagavad Gita, there's knowledge. And it takes a while for Arjuna to become freed from attachment. But once he's freed from attachment, he's ready to go. The obstacle to bhakti is attachment to non-bhakti, or attachment to trying to be a separate enjoyer. It's what brings us to the material world to begin with. Let's put it as a question. What brings us to the material world to begin with? Raga and dvesha. Raga is coveting something, and dvesha is adversity towards something, and that something is Krishna. We want the position of the enjoyer, that's the raga, and dvesha, we have we have an attitude towards the person who's actually the enjoyer. Dvesha samutena dvanda mohena bharata. All living entities take birth in this material world, overcome by the dualities of raga and dvesha. So with that raga, that's the material desire. It's not, desire isn't the problem. It's the material desire that's the problem. Here's the next slide. It's also from the same portion of Uddhava Gita. Material desire is undoubtedly the cause of the greatest unhappiness. And freedom from such desire is the cause of the greatest happiness. Really simple. The Avadhuta Brahmana. And the graphics are great. There's a cage and a bird flying out of the cage. When he gets out of the cage, he's free. I got a photograph the other day from a devotee in China, and they just, the caption, the subject portion of the email was, "I am free." And there was no text. It was just a photograph of this devotee singing in a microphone with someone behind them playing a guitar in a studio or something like that. So I just, wrote back saying, "What's the context?" They said they're taking voice lessons from a professional singer, and now they have grown to really like kirtan, so they agreed that I could use their microphone, and their eyes are closed, and they're free. There's freedom in the position of taking shelter of glorifying Krishna. I mean, it's not just singing is one thing, and giving one's heart to Krishna is another thing. But if you don't give your heart to Krishna, you're going to give your heart to something. You're going to try to find happiness in something. And there's freedom. I'm making mention of this because of the graphic here. Freedom from such desire is the cause of the greatest happiness. Now, let's do a little Buddhist lesson. Just making it, a little personal. As I was searching, once upon a time I was a college student, and searching without knowing what, I had an idea what I was searching for, but I didn't know what it looked like. The search was like these students. A life that's not just a struggle and finding real happiness. But I didn't label it that way. The label was, there's a higher reality. I know that I don't know what it is, and I want to know what it is. 3 things. I have deep inside, I'm certain there's a higher reality. There's a place where people don't live like this. I don't know what it is, and I want to know what it is. That was the starting point. So one of the things that I came across that I found powerful but limited was Buddhism. The particular Buddhism that I found, because I went to school in Buffalo, nearby in Rochester there was a Zendo. a popular place. It's Japanese Zen. The fellow wrote a book, Three Pillars of Zen, by Philip Kapleau, and an American guy, Philip Kapleau, a Jewish guy, that became a Zen Buddhist. And he had a Zendo, and I went and spent time at the Zendo, and I was doing Zazen. It was, I'll describe it. I'm still in college, but that was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and for 2 hours every morning, I went, or with or without any of the other people that were in the house, we went into this little Zendo. We made a little room, put up a white sheet, and sat in meditation. The type of meditation was just observe the thoughts in your mind like passing clouds, and you don't interact with it. You just observe it. Here comes the cloud. There it is, and there it goes. And here comes another one. And after some time, you don't identify with the cloud, you recognize that you're the observer of the cloud. So it's self-awareness without interacting with the world around you. Starting with the subtle world. And then you when you become absorbed in it, it's like how you live your life. Zen. You become a Zen Buddhist. So I found that the meditation process was very powerful, but as soon as that 2 hour meditation was over, it was back to, in other words, it wasn't natural. It was quite artificial. Oh, you can't see the words on the screen. Plus, the color is really funky. Anyway, Hare Krishna. We're okay now? Wasn't that interesting? Whatever. Okay, I hope you can still hear me. Yes, okay, I'll keep going. The search is for happiness, but just negation of material happiness isn't happiness. Or say it differently. Some time passed and I became a Hare Krishna devotee because I found some shelter and happiness, positive happiness, in relationship with Krishna and serving Krishna, etc. So when I went to China 12 years ago, I found there are lots of people that say that they're Buddhist. I say that they say they're Buddhist because they don't really know what Buddhism is. It's popular, but they don't really know what it is. You know that kind of thing. So I started, because people were saying it so often, and we would conduct programs where half the audience is, they're in their Buddhist attire and Buddhist beads and the whole thing. In fact, I'm digressing a little bit, but one of the places everybody knows now where Wuhan is, because of. But before coronavirus, what Wuhan was known for is there are two humongous, well-established and celebrated Buddhist temples in Wuhan. And so doing some programs and places, half the audience were from this and that temple, the Buddhist temple. And they like Krishna consciousness. They like prasadam too. And they like kirtan. So I started to learn more about Buddhism. And everybody should know, if you don't already know here, but leaving this, you'll know something about Buddhism. According to the teachings of Buddha, the root cause of suffering is desire. The root cause of suffering is desire. So you want to become happy? Become free from desire. How do you become free from desire? Two things. I'm keeping it simple. Live a life of goodness. Be charitable, be nonviolent, clean, truthful. Put yourself in an incubation chamber of goodness. What language is that? They're speaking? Can you understand what they're saying? Okay, let's keep going. We're having our technology ride this evening. So, two things. Mode of goodness life and mindfulness. Everybody knows that one. It's like mindfulness is now a commercial word. The Mindful Burger. In Chicago, there's a burger place, the Mindful Burger, home of the Mindful Burger. Or the Mindful Manager, or without going into it. It's become commercialized. So what is mindfulness? In simple terms, is what the mind stays in the moment. You don't go over in the past. That's the mode of ignorance and lament over the past. You don't go over in the passion side, planning the future. You're just in the moment. And there's a doctrine, I learned this from Jiva Goswami. There's a doctrine called Kshanik Vada Buddhism. Kshanik is a term that means like a fraction of a moment. All there is, according to Buddhism, is the moment. The past is gone, and the future hasn't happened. All there is the moment. So the practice of mindfulness is to be in the moment. During my time, it was be here now. And there's when you're really good at it, when you become a real good Buddhist and you're really mindful, and what's the goal? The goal is to get on the other side of the moment. When all there is the moment. And what's on the other side of the moment? Nirvana. Enlightenment. And what's nirvana? Nothing. Or nothingness, or void. That's the more conventional way, voidism. As we in ISKCON know, voidism.